So welcome to another exploration into consciousness with the Earth Level Hub. And we've got first week of the month, which is the SOS month. So we have a bit of a note plan. There's nothing particularly topic-wise. So we can just play with whatever comes up. And what has already come up is actually the topic of pattern recognition. And how Sean was saying that, he's been realizing, seeing, recognizing, discovering that there's a lot of construction work going on the roads, right? And it's so interesting to look at the mirrors of that, because everything seems to be, there is an elevated level of pattern recognition, that everything that happens in this physical, all of a sudden, for me, it seems like, okay, this is the picture that's happening in the physical, and then behind it is that spiraling hologram, or not just one, many of them. And if you go into it, it just takes you to a different level of recognition, what's actually going on. And, with construction, well, yeah, everything is dissolving, deconstructing for us to reconstruct. So this is a very cool pattern. Have you guys perceived that? Is your pattern recognition somewhat also sort of heightened, elevated? And then how?
Well, I mean, just to talk about the deconstruction, reconstruction, right, that we were talking about. And I mentioned this tree in my neighborhood. This tree is over 100 years old, and it's at a park that I walk to a lot, and it drops these little sort of like pine cones that my dog loves to chase. So it's a fun game for us. But this tree, a third of it broke in a windstorm and fell. And this is the park where they have the altars for Day of the Dead. So there have been, so much like prayer around these trees. And as someone was cutting, one of the city guys was cutting it down with a chainsaw today, I was just thinking, this tree, it's going back to the earth, it's going to the air, it's going to the fire. My husband's been like wanting to get some pieces so we can burn them in our fireplace. And, it will go also to the water, so it's returning back to earth and getting recycled. So just the pattern of the deconstruction and reconstruction, right, happens with animals that pass away and trees that fall down and get burned. And, I'm just sort of like really, really recognizing how Earth is a great recycler of energy. Right? Even energy that we're releasing and it has been stuck in the body gets composted, right, by Earth Mother, and we let it go.
As you're speaking, what comes to me is that expansion that comes with it. It's almost like we're releasing the particles back into the wave, right? But the wave will not be the same because of the experiences the particles bring with it.
It becomes like quantum energy to be used for whatever's next, our greatest good.
I like the word expansion you used, because I was thinking in my own mind, I was like, it's almost like a concentration that's like going through a redistribution process, and like expansion just ties into that so well, because that tree was so much power, so much time, so many stories, so many days, months, and years. And now it's kind of getting redistributed, like its essence is being expanded all over the place now.
Do you guys find, as you say that, Sean, do you guys find, if we apply that to ourselves from a bigger perspective of pattern recognition, that expansion changes the level of presence and the way we almost define presence or have defined presence in the past?
I think it does, but only if we're aware of it. Like if we have significance for that tree and we admire the strengths of that tree, then when it's redistributed, we can feel how it's traveled everywhere. But just as like things in our bodies, we have our own concentrations. And if we're aware of it being distributed, then absolutely. But more on the unseen level if we're just not actually as aware of it.
So, and this is also interesting because the unseen is coming more into our presence. So I think with that idea of grounding and presence, this whole we have to take it into a higher mental and emotional faculty beyond the chakra system that we've been working until now when we look at presence, because we're going to bring those multidimensional realms and levels into this physical realm here. So the level of presence has to be more expanded versus our focus and concentration, the word that you use. There's a different level of concentration that is coming in.
I think too, you know, when we're talking about being aware and even making the quantum like levels of energy, right, that are being transmuted usable. Yeah, I mean, it does have to do with a mindfulness, but also almost like aware of the technique to be able to use that fresh energy, right? And whether it's with the breath, whether it's with you know, just like feeling the particle rays of the sun, right, energizing you, because as things get recycled, I don't even know where I'm going with this, but it seems like the energy, like the energy of the earth, the energy of the sun we can draw from that, right? We can use it. So there's, again, like if you're not aware of it, you're not going to be using it.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing is what I see a lot in the manifestation, the problems that are coming up because of that. Because if you're aware of it, you can expand into your higher faculties. You can appreciate that there's something else other than the crown chakra there, you know. But if you're not aware of it, then it starts to really compress. It starts to create a limitation. So lots of people, the few people that I surround myself with, I can see there is a compression or a contraction going on. And that kind of contraction is purely because of all the impressions that are coming in unawareness, and they're not being processed, they're not being digested. And this is why it's causing, you know, that huge sort of limitation that is no longer necessarily connected to the belief system. And I think this is something to really start looking at, because, you know, we've done so much clearing and the conditioning and the program and everything, that there comes a time where we no longer work or get invited to change through triggers, but through that feeling of contraction that has a slightly different energy to it. So it's almost like what I've been looking at. I've always been looking at, so once the triggers, the usual triggers, the karmic triggers, yeah, dissolve because we've done a certain level of you know, work, how do we create? And then I realized, it's that contraction and expansion that is no longer, we can no longer pinpoint it to a particular negative emotion or something remembering from a past life or this life. Hi, Jody. Welcome. But from that level of impression that is coming onto this planet.
Very, very well put, Martina. Because I see that often too, like there's that compression coming in from the unseen, especially when the person's waiting to be triggered. So the impressions keep coming and keep coming. And if a person or we don't become aware of it, that's when the trigger in the unseen world makes a manifestation on its own. Because if we can become aware of all that concentrating energy, then we can direct it with our own intent and kind of create our own manifestations with it. But so often, you know, we don't want to deal with the weight of that heavy spiritual energy and to make a change. And so the unseen just makes a choice, like a choice point all on its own. It's kind of us out of it. Like we kind of put our tacit consent into it and not actually our awareness intent into it.
Well,
And that's when you're like that little the boat on the ocean without a say in the matter, instead of, exactly where you want to be going.
yeah. And we're no longer getting away with tacit consent.
Yeah, it's way rougher. Like now it's more of a bitch smack if you don't, like, if you just don't make a choice. It's just way the consequences are just more in your face.
And you know what? It's a very simple fact. Why? Because as we're starting to live as an I am avatar and start remembering the self, the observer of all of that, we can no longer say there is no different level, there is no different realm, there is no different dimension. So it's actually stepping up the responsibility, a huge stepping up the responsibility into the dreaming world, of course, where we are open to the singularity. And then, of course, the dreaming world is no longer just when we close our eyes and sleep.
Maintaining those realms, because like we were talking about the construction again, every time I see that, like 1, 2, 3, 4 lined up constructions, or even just one, but then I feel the construction going on in my own body in the micro scale. And then on the macro scale, it's like, okay, well, maybe some planets are being created, or some new cities are being created up there, some new trade routes are being enacted, but just on different levels happening simultaneously, just by looking at, a few construction cones and beep, 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 beep.
Yep. And that's the thing, as the avatar, isn't it? We have to pull the strings. So we can't just pretend we hold the strings and we don't even know where the strings are going. No, as the avatar, we need to know what's going on in the other realms. We need to start becoming more aware of that. And then, of course, that information that is coming in, that is no longer able to be expressed in the usual way we used to express everything. This is why part of the reason what we are doing here is we continuously constructing words, and even that is still a limitation, because some of that light memory that is coming in can no longer be translated.
Yeah, it's making me think now, just when I see that construction process, it's a really good time to nurture myself a lot, because like heavy construction requires a lot of energy and rebuilding and sustainability. So it's like, okay, well, if all this is going on, then I'm gonna have to nurture the process.
Yeah.
Or it'll stop.
Jody, you've come into the SOS week. Is there anything that you would like to address? Anything that you'd like to discuss? Anything you need? We can be of help. Or you just want to hang? And
come on, be on the spot here, Jody.
Well, why not? You don't have to. My mic says it's not working. Okay. She's just hanging. Okay, cool. Great. Well, then let's continue with the pattern.
Yeah, I just want to say, Martina, that around here where I live, I have noticed there's a lot of construction, but one of the things that's happening around me is there's a lot of new roads and additional pathways onto existing roads. And it's a very interesting kind of reflection to watch, because, in line with what you have been saying, I think that, yeah, absolutely. I feel in my life that it's, I know that it's something I've always done. I've been transmuting, but I'm actually very consciously transmuting now. And it's that feeling of, overwhelm I find in people, where there's so much going on and so much kind of coming at them, they feel. And it's like, what do you do with it? We can't contain it like we used to anymore. We have to be able to transmute it and let it go. So I find that I'm really very conscious of the fact that I'm like a channel, that's very much the role that I'm playing in my life now. And it was always going to be like this, and it's just, I've just nicely gone into that place. And yeah, for myself too, it's about being able to just let things through, and the pathways and the roadways around me and the additional pathways are very interesting. in terms of that. I had a client this morning, and she was saying to me, she was talking about this is a bit unrelated, but maybe not. She was talking about, you know, her childhood and what it was like at school, and she was very afraid of one particular teacher. And she said, I used to look out the window when she used to be screaming and shouting, and I'd be terrified of her. And I used to look at the cows in the field and all the daisies. And I used to say, God, I wish I was a cow. And I explored that with her and what that would mean for her. And of course, it meant total freedom and away from the school and all of that. But it reminded me of my own story when I was young. I used to wish I was a bird. And it was that absolute longing just to get away from the restriction of that's how I experienced the world at that particular stage. I experienced it as very restrictive. And I always escaped the restriction by being able to imagine and to dream and to go someplace in that place. And it's exactly what she was saying, you know. And I think in some strange way that actually does relate to what we're talking about in terms of the patterns and being able to let things go through us now and let things be transmuted and all of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that freedom that we are working towards is where we no longer have to want to be a cow or a bird, but we want to be human.
Yeah.
Because we can start embodying that freedom. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
That information, we are channels. But if you just think, I've never channeled the way, you know, channelers do, you know, close eyes and take over of the body and stuff like that. But most channelers are actually changing their way of channeling, no longer closing their eyes, no longer, you know, really changing their voices or anything, and just really allowing that information to come through. Now, I think what we as humans need to do is we need to really, that information that is coming in, you called it, you said you're going to transmute it, you transform it, or you let it go through, right? Now, how can we transmute and transform it better than we have until now?
Yeah.
How can we do that?
That's a good question.
Let's look at that.
Like with you were talking about how so much can come in, it's easy to get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It's like a point where we have to cap off the process or put in a reducer, like sign out, like only so much can get in at one time. But then it's like nice because like we've created all that, it's out there. But then it can, once we put that little cap on it, it can come to us later through the weather, through the rain, through the wind, through the animals, through it's that other thing I was thinking of, like synchronicities, but like through, especially through those elements and channels. But then they can come to us bit by bit by bit over time and not overwhelm us. But we have to see that we created that kind of trickle charge system or that reducing system, so we just don't get all overwhelmed, because we can't take in the infinite all at once as a human.
There's a lady that I follow, Rana Vizane. She channels Archangel Michael. I've been following her for like 20 years, and she calls herself a sacred scribe. So she, you know, will channel by just bringing the information through, but she also does a monthly message. And I read her message this morning because I thought we were going to be talking about something that was relevant to it, and here we are. But she was talking about this sense of overwhelm, right? That we as humans, and especially the way showers who are sort of changing our frequency first, right, are bringing in so much higher density energy, so much higher vibrational frequency energy, that it can get really overwhelming sometimes. And so instead of, one of the things our higher selves are doing, what she was talking about, is putting us in this sort of like void space where we can handle, right, the incoming energies and let go of the old energies and transmute the old energies in a way that it's almost like we're stepping back and being able to see the big picture happen instead of being in it, right? And this sort of like a objective null and void space might feel like, oh, things are boring, nothing's happening, but so much is happening, just like we're just being taken out of the full energetic processing of it, so we're not so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So let's look overwhelm. Yes. How do we get over the whelm? We need to figure out what the whelm is. What is that information? Because yes, the stepping back is definitely the resting that Sean was saying, the taking yourself back, you know, the contemplation, the deliberation, and all of that, the resting periods. But there's something else, because remember, our DNA is restructuring, our waters are changing, so our bodies are changing, our faculties are changing. So how do we have, first of all, let's look at this whelm. What is the whelm? What is it?
When I think of whelm, I think it's like too much, too fast, that rocks the boat.
Yes. So information is coming in at a much higher speed. The vibratory rate that is coming in is much higher. So we got much higher speed. We got a length to the information and the depth to it that we need to decipher, that we need to interpret. So there is a timing to that. As it comes in, you know, our faculties, what faculties do we have?
Or cognitive senses, like
Yes,
our ears,
mental,
nose, mouth, tongue, taste, memories, mental, non-judgmental,
mental, emotional,
physical.
physical, and instinctual. So those are the four main factors. Instinctual is the sensory and all that, yeah? So all of those four faculties we've been working with, and they are trained to bring that information that has been coming in over, you know, a long, long time. We're quite simply easy because it's not so fast, but now everything is speeding up, getting longer, and we're getting those packages of information like thrown at you, right? Like a snowball. Oh shit, okay. And then we have to start taking that apart. But can we do this with the existing faculties that we have? Or do we need to upgrade those? Or is it happening automatically? Or what's going on there? Whelm, hold on. Somebody's giving us whelm. Tanya.
So as a verb, it's like a surge. So a surge of energy, right? Or to engulf or submerge as a verb, like a swimmer whelmed in a raging storm. To flow or heap abundantly. Or as a noun, it's like an act of flowing, or like the whelm of the tide. So I think about like the surge of energy that's coming in, right? And how do you mitigate a surge, right? We've had a lot of flooding here in California, and in order to mitigate surges of water, right, you can create alternate pathways for the water to flow, or alternate containers, right, for the water to flow into.
Okay. Let's look at what we just said. This abundance, there's something coming in abundance. Let's call it data in abundance, like you say, water, you know, everything is coming in intense abundance. Now, how can we integrate that without creating separation?
I'll field this one. I'm thinking, so now it's a time where we need to develop new languages, because we're taking them in on like the same language that we've always known. And like, it's kind of like, if it's coming in faster and stronger, it's kind of like we're using our right hand all the time, but we're using it more and we're growing the muscles more. When we got to start using our left leg and our right leg and kind of using all of our aspects, but developing new languages so we can use everything together as a whole to work more efficiently at processing this in. And it's like listening to those language again, like the wind, like looking at fire, like looking at things in time and how they progress and transgress, but trying to put that all into a framework that we can understand without using that same language that we've overworked for the last thousands of years.
Absolutely. Language is one
Yeah.
of them. Words is one of them. This is where, you know, when we talk about activating the dragon, right? We're coming in with sigils, and we're starting to, you know, this is really a decoding of the light impulses and light memories that are coming in. So it's really that this is that level that we are discussing here. And I like what you said, using this hand and this hand, using hand and feet, but also everything internally. You know, you mentioned the senses before, which is very much still the instinctual faculty, but then, you know, we are now we have to start perceiving that information through every single fucking organ. We talk a lot about the heart, perceiving through the heart. We don't talk so much about perceiving through the kidney or perceiving the spleen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And
Yeah.
this is where we just have to switch, because we got a lot of information. I mean, Sean, you know, always he knows exactly what's connected to the spleen and to the heart and to the kidney, but we need to start thinking kidney. We need to start thinking appendix, even if you don't have it anymore, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's for kidneys, since you bring up kidneys. I think of it as like the programmable water source. Like it's programming the waters of our body. Even though most organs probably do that too, but I'm just going to say with a higher F is like
Because, you know, I was looking at this. I mean, we got our 7 chakras, or 8 or 9, you know, and you know, ever so often somebody says, oh, there's another chakra. Now, what is beyond those chakras? When we talk about higher faculties, where are they? How can we tap into them? What are they?
tough question. So maybe chakras are energy centers. So there must be more energy centers above and below and left and right, or on different axes throughout space. So what are these
Well,
different energy
according to the
centers
guy who makes the aura cameras, you can see auras and can see spinning vortices of energy in the human body. There's 1,024 chakras in the human body, major chakras and also minor chakras. So when you think of that, think of it from that perspective, right? When we're moving into our multidimensional beingness, and whether those multidimensional parts of us are physical or non-physical, whether they're able to be in the seen or unseen, physical matter or energy matter, there has to be, you know, energetic centers or energetic vortices that bring energy into those parts of our being, and also allow for that connection, right, to our now self.
Wow,
What
right back
does
to
that
the
look like? You
beginning.
know, to me, it looks like wheels and wheels and wheels and wheels.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say.
I love that, Tanya, because we just got to the very beginning of condensing. So the chakras are energy condensing centers, where then they can expand, like Martina said again at the beginning, but they're expanding in a dense, so concentrating in a dense form, but also expanding in this physical dense form too. So we haven't quite defined these infinite energy center chakras, but yeah, I guess we're off to a good start.
Do we need to define them?
Yeah, we don't need to pin them down completely.
I mean, maybe they're
beautiful.
shifting. Maybe they're shifting now, right? It seems like what we're doing here on Earth, as we each individually raise our density and frequency, and collectively, Earth is, you know, raising her density and frequency as well. Maybe what is shifting and changing.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of instead of defining stuff, is backwards as it might sound, I like differentiating stuff, which always makes things more possible. So like, you know, which chakra is bigger than it? Like, is it bigger or smaller? Is it faster or slower? Is each chakra hotter or colder? Is one more concentrated or one more expanding? And so that kind of breeds a limitless, complicated, but still keeps it simple at the same time a little bit.
Well, I'm working on a fun Egyptian Socratic activation for you all for next week. So
Woohoo!
we'll
To it.
see. We'll see how fast we spin.
Lovely.
after
Practice my
after
other
that.
languages.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I would fully agree with non-identification, yeah, because that's limitation. But
Yeah.
I would also add that, you know, when we get to that space of overwhelm and all this abundance, is what are we going to do with that? Is just really of allowing our levels of awareness to heighten, that there is something outside of the knowledge that we have learned and studied until now, you know. And if you go and look for that information, it's not even out there at the moment. And I think this is something we all need to open up ourselves up to. And that's where the channeling, you know, what Mary was saying as well, because that is that information that wants to come in now for somebody to bring it through. You know, that what we always say, that is no guruism anymore. There is no particular schools for any you know, mystery schools. The mystery schools are changing completely because the mystery is being taken out. Everything is going to be open, available for everyone to tap into and to contribute to.
Mhm.
I think about, you know, these surges of energy and how we can make them a little bit more manageable. Like the concept of, you know, being a Reiki practitioner, the concept of creating a Reiki bank, right? I use this energetically a lot, where I have like a pyramid of light in the fifth dimension with like a crystal table where I'll bank Reiki into that. And then when I want to receive Reiki, I lay on the table. And so I think, you know, with all of this higher frequency energy coming in, we can also create this concept of sort of like banking it so we can draw on it a little more slowly. And that might look different for everyone, but you could bank it into, you know, download it into a crystal if you wanted to. Yeah.
I like that, because that just dawned on me. Because making that Reiki bank, making that maybe not exterior is the word, but the biophotonic light creation, again, it's gotta have some sort of significance in the body. So you just thinking about that is kind of programming, empowering something in our body, even if we haven't quite defined it yet.
So the invitation in all of that is action. There's an underlying guidance that calls us to action, instead of just saying, okay, I'm just relaxing, resting, I just let everything happen the way it is. No, there is a level of action that is required in the resting. And even if it's just saying, hey, I give permission to that, or, you know, I take this out of my Reiki bank now, or I put it into the Reiki bank, that kind of thing. And that goes part of, you know, goes with the responsibility, the elevated responsibility that is coming to the I am self avatar in those times of high surges of abundance that are coming in. Because our bodies, the bodies are still limited. We need to help the bodies, because this has never happened before. That's why there is nothing much written about that. That kind of thing has never happened on this planet before, that we are taking that spiritual information into embodiment, the capacity to have a life review without having the bucket, and stay in body and remember all our lifetimes.
And with that, we were starting to create more choice points. And creating choice points, we're essentially programming ourselves. So we're creating more choice points and programming ourselves. And it can be physiologically, when we're talking about our heart, or we're talking about our blood, or we're talking about our marrow. But I love what Tanya said about the Reiki bank, because just creating that creates new choice points. And eventually that responsibility will create a new awareness. Because one day I'll be like, oh, fuck, like my cellular nucleus is part Reiki bank. and it's been there all along. I just didn't know that's what it did.
You know, I think that when there's a lot of energy coming in, right, I kind of like visualize my own energy field and the blueprint around me like a sphere of light that you know you can bring energy into and then be able to like work with it in the body afterwards, right? It doesn't have to go directly through or into the body to you know overwhelm the systems, right? You can sort of like take it a little slower by downloading it into the blueprint, right, or the aura, and then slowly drawing it in, almost like osmosis, energetic osmosis too.
Can I call that body weather? You know,
Yeah,
like
sure.
the aura is like the body weather. And also just to think like plasma and electricity both create magnetics. And there's a lot of magnetics in our auric field. Like our heart creates a lot of magnetics as part of our auric field. And I'm going to call body weather. It does trickle down and rain into our body. It doesn't overwhelm us, because that's like part of that kind of strengthening the outsides of our aura. So there's not holes in it, things leaking in. But, you know, taking things from the inside and putting it back to the outside so it can trickle back in, like rain and mist and steam and dew.
Maybe also, you know, those impressions, that energy that is coming in, you know, verifying on some level if it, who it is focused on, you know, as we're no longer just the I, we are the I am avatar. So, you know, that internal dialogue that we can have with our shards, parts, and different, you know, sort of versions of ourselves before once they fully integrate, it's a different story, but they're still out there hanging about. And some of that information is specifically tailored to them. And they would have something to say to, hey, oh, I remember, I can use it for that and that. And they can help you to integrate it into the body to work together. So really take that hub of interconnectivity a bit more serious, instead of just using it as a nice catchphrase. Really say, hey, there is a hub of interconnectivity. I'm not on my own in this. So let's all work together. What are we going to do with when this abundance comes in?
Those shards and the avatars I'm seeing on the physical scale, kind of like different countries and provinces within their own body. And some are at war, some aren't at war. Some trade with each other freely. Some say, I do not communicate with you whatsoever. And so as we work with those shards and avatars, it's kind of like a physical representation. So we can just start trading inside of our body properly again. And not just throw you in a jail cell away somewhere and never see the light of day ever again.
That's a beautiful metaphor, yeah.
One of the things I noticed with a lot of clients that I've been working with is the lower chakras being closed down, but also how much energy and old information is stored in the skeletal system. So it's almost like that release needs to happen so the new information can come in. And it's almost like, you know, I think of our skeletal system like our personal Akashic record. And if we can download, right, some of that old information just into the Akashic record of Earth, we can still access it when we need it. But then the new information that swirls around in the crown chakra and the third eye and can't get grounded can start to download right into the skeleton.
I'm seeing those releases from the skeleton back into the auric field, so they can, you know, slowly be downloaded back in a way that's not overwhelming.
That's a toroidal field, isn't it? In and out, taking information in. Every cell has a toroidal field around us. We are living in this Trojan field, you know, and everything is in and out and in. And also, I think I saw one of those illustrations the other day where the soul, apparently there's this thin line coming in through the spine. This is the soul sort of information, like you say, Tanya, you know, and that needs, some call it Kundalini, I suppose. I don't know if it's connected somehow, but you know, that kind of continues up and down and flush out and that kind of thing. Yeah. Cool.
Makes
Yeah.
sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like just with, you know, with the physical bodies, the changes that we're going through, like you said, we haven't gone through this before. This is new.
This is new, yeah. Exciting. So we
Mhm.
can't do it right or wrong, right? Because nobody can tell us we're doing it right or wrong, because nobody knows.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Any other patterns that have been coming up for you guys? Oh, you know, that I was looking for that term, and I don't know what it is, but when you look at a pattern, and somebody sees a cow and the other one sees a cat and the other one sees a horse or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. This is so this is so in my face now, because you know, it's not just the clouds have faces and the rocks have faces and everything has starting to have all these different faces and meanings, and you know, that expanded meaning of everything. That's another pattern for me, that, you know, some people talk about something, in the meantime, I can't even, you know, focus on what they're saying, because I'm already thinking of 5 different things that I'm seeing and how am I connecting it and that kind of thing.
I'm getting that a lot recently as well. You know,
Mm.
especially in my good friend Wood, but not just Wood, even like in the shower, just there's marble, like not marble, but there's ceramic tiles, the stone tiles. And as this other day I was looking at it, I was like, holy shit, these things are just telling a story. And yeah, they really do come in hard.
You saw a face in the bathroom, didn't you, Sean?
I saw like 5 faces.
Since I told the story of the face in the bathroom, you've been noticing them in yours, right?
Yeah.
They've been
Andrew
looking at you.
actually, he got me. So I got some facial work done, like chiropractor bone releases, and Andrew got me to quid some weed, like soak some weed in spirits, and I soaked it in whiskey, and you keep like pack it in the eye like Jaws, for a long time, and that would like feed into the nerves and help things relax for the reshaping process. And that's when I was like, holy crap, I didn't know just having weed in your mouth for 5 hours would make things moving around quite so. Because that's when I took a shower and I was like, holy crap, like I'm seeing everything in a completely different fashion right now.
Yeah. Well, isn't
One
that
of the things, I'm
Go.
sorry. Go ahead, Martina.
No,
Sorry.
you go, Lana.
No, I was just coming back to what you were saying, that you were seeing like patterns in rocks and clouds and you know, in different places you go, you're seeing patterns. What I feel is that they were always there, but now that we have elevated our understanding and our consciousness to a higher level, we're beginning to recognize that more quickly. So that's our form of pattern recognition of the we can claim them as unseen, but they're really not unseen. They've always been there. And I do notice that as well.
Amazing.
But yeah, one of the things that I did, I turned the TV on and was looking at the weather this morning, and I happened to switch over to late night show, and I was catching up on late night show, and 2 of the guys, the host and the guest, they were talking about something, and it made me realize that one of the things that is going on at the moment is that people used to blame each other for everything that happens, you know, and pointed fingers and
kind of blaming and shaming and things like that. But I think that what I'm recognizing is that people are getting tired of that now. And quietly in the background, what people are doing, they're trying to find solutions instead of following that old pattern of pointing fingers and blaming, and not using their energy constructively to find solutions for the problem. So that's one of the things that I am recognizing now on a worldwide scale. Quietly in the background, it's happening.
I want to add to that, Lana, because I was just thinking the other day, this is just yesterday, and I was out and about, and there was some talk about military, because I was at the gym, and I was just talking to someone who's from Nova Scotia. And if you guys don't know where Nova Scotia is, it's like on the east coast of Canada, on the Atlantic Ocean. And so there was a fishing industry, and it kind of boom and bust, and they moved to Toronto because that industry's gone. But there's also the other big industry is the military. And I was just thinking about the military, and I was like, like the military doesn't really know what it's doing. It's kind of just copycatting all the other, like it just kind of does what all the other militaries are doing. Like if they get this, they get this. And it's kind of like, it doesn't really have a rhyme or reason. It's more like an insecurity on its own, like this grander scale insecurity that this exterior power, it just got to do what the other powers are doing. And it's, I don't know how to tie this all together, but it's kind of, I feel that in my own way, like our own, sometimes we just do what other people are doing instead of what we should be doing.
Copycat.
Kind of, yeah. I'm losing the words how to put this all together, but the whole military industrial complex is like this giant insecurity thing happening on an internal scale. I was like, oh. Yeah,
John, let's summarize it. This is the age of transparency. It's becoming so clear, our habitual patterns of repetition and just programming and conditioning. It's becoming so clear because we're no longer doing it with the conviction. We're just doing it. It's like it becomes more robotic. It's like, yeah, we used to do this, but my heart's not really in it anymore. And that's why it's starting to be perceived in a sort of different way. And it becomes much more transparent that it's on the way out.
Like, I think it's, to sum it up, is like, I perceived it as a giant fear of what other people think. That's what, but like on a huge scale versus this personal scale. Like this giant scale of what other countries think of each other versus.
And that's the fear of uncertainty. That's the fear of losing control, right? That's the fear of losing the solidity in our actions and habitual patterns, because that is happening. But that is happening automatically through the influx of all those energies. The solidity is going, you know. And it's just like, and it's, there's almost like an inversion of the matrix. Lots of people talk about inversion of the matrix. What does it actually mean? I mean, I was driving the other day, and usually you can't get lost in London because there's so many cars, you know, but I was on a stretch and there was nobody on the road for a split second. And I literally thought, oh shit, which side am I driving on the right side? I almost like, shit, am I driving on the right side? I really had a total blank out. And then the other day I was putting my bra on like a rucksack. I'm like, what am I doing? And I put it on like, this doesn't feel right. That's another pattern. And I looked at that. Oh, that's a pattern recognition. Oh, inverted matrix. Everything is upside down, inside out. You know?
And that's a big, I'll give you two more pattern recognition. That I wanted to say that's a big pattern recognition, because you realized everything was all flip-flop. It was the opposite of what it was.
Yeah.
And I want to tie two things together, because Tanya was talking about the bones, and I had my sphenoid bone adjusted and I had my maxilla adjusted, and it was the first one of 4 sessions was the most painful, intense feeling I felt like 20 years of pain come out in like a second. And it was like time traveling, because it was like the bone set for 20 years. And now it's in a different position that I've been holding for 20 years. But on the way to that first session, I left early and I was like, I looked on Google Maps and I was like, oh shit, there's a big, everything's really slow on one of the roads. So I'm going to have to leave even earlier because the road was all orange and red instead of blue. So I left earlier. And then as I get there, for some reason, Google Docs had it all wrong. The wrong side of the road was actually where the car broke down was or whatever. So my road was fine. So it's like, it just had it all backwards. It's like that kind of thing. It's like, that's an interesting thing on this way where I'm getting this big adjustment that the highway's got the wrong roads.
Fabulous.
What
What else?
that kind of synchronicity, that kind of pattern recognition.
What
It
else?
happens a lot.
Around? Yeah. That's right. Flipping the coin is such a good, cool thing. Flip the coin all the time. What's on the other side? Let me ask you, Sean, I want to ask you something. Sphenoid bone, yeah? That's that bone here, right?
Yeah, winged bone, kind of behind your eyes, kind of, it's the butterfly bone.
Yes. That
It
is,
connects to every bone.
yeah. And that's also connected to the residual images, right? And this is why probably, everything is coming out, the 20. But where's the zygote? Zygote?
Zygote.
Oh, that's here, isn't it?
The story. No, you mean the
Oh, here.
the ethmoid mole, ethmoid.
Oh, zygote. No, it's sphenoid. No, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
It's a sphenoid bone. That's good. Because I think, for anyone who doesn't want to go through, I think just tapping the sphenoid bone could be quite a good thing to work with your multidimensional, with all the different, what did I just say? Residual images.
And I'll say something personal here about that. It's been a rough, weird 2 weeks because it's like, I never noticed how my residual image on my face has changed. And holy shit, that shit grounds you down. It really does. It's only changed a little bit. And I think it's happened more in the unseen. But I got all these weird questions coming in because my residual image is all different.
It's amazing. That's amazing. But do you guys also find, I often find, because my dreaming, I think I do a lot of much more work in the dream than I've ever done in the so-called awake world anyway. But I really often wake up and I look briefly in the mirror and thinking, oh God, who is this? It's every day there seems to be a different person. I never look the same. Do you find that too?
Wow. So I just want to say quick, that just shows how much of a master you've become, because your residual image keeps constantly changing and you still have a very large degree of groundedness.
Because sometimes, what's really interesting with that is that, we talked about this family constellation thing, that sometimes, you look like your father, you look like your mother, you taking on those particular people that actually want to communicate with you, or that you are clearing. It's really amazing. This shape-shifting can be quite I wouldn't say unsettling, but it's quite interesting, really.
Yeah, well, it was unsettling for me a little bit, but I know what you mean. And I think a lot of this too, like on the physical, the sutures of the skull are free, they should be free floating, because when they free float a little bit, your body can just adjust them the way that it wants. So I think that'd be a good indicator that your facial sutures are not very tight, they're good.
Well, I don't know if that's good. I was thinking, because
I think it's good.
All the accidents, what I've had, and I thought, with the jaw, and because also there was a time the jaw kept on clicking for 1, 2, 3 months, and that settled down now and things like that. But this is the thing, it's good to talk about that, because yes, it might be unsettling for some, but some people freak the fuck out. There's nothing to freak out. Yeah. We're starting to look different. We're supposed to rejuvenate. We will change. We will start. And also the thing is, isn't it, at some stage, probably not in this lifetime, but we're going to become more looking the way, our origins are,
It got me to thinking, and this can go both ways, but it did get me to thinking about anyone who makes facial body transformations and how much like huge effect that has on a person's residual image, be it good or bad, like just getting a new set of teeth, like dentures, or more like an insecurity about a nose or a face or a lips. It just, they go both ways, and how much huge impacts it has on each individual.
Well, I mean, just think about women wearing makeup, right? How you see like a before and an after photo of a woman who's, plain faced and then made up, right? That totally changes the the image of what the person looks like. Jody's putting on
Perfect.
makeup right now.
Well, and
Yeah.
it impacts our behaviors, the way, the role play that we put out, the way we feel about ourselves and things like that. Absolutely.
And then what we'll have to think about is like how much of our residual image that is changing is based on our heart-based awareness, or it's being influenced by outside factors, family, friends, politics, or even self-degradation. Is what is the influencing factor that's continuously changing our residual image? Is it the way we want to change our residual image? Is there a true, authentic residual image?
For coming, is she gone?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
she's-
think on.
Toodaloo, Jody.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
No, that's all.
Yeah. No, and we can even flip the coin for this one, because I was thinking, how many, because these surgeries or these changes, particular wild changes that people make with their faces turning into cats and things like that. I think there's also an element of really something from the ancient past is coming through, that is not just, being affected by people right now, but actually from, a deep-seated I don't know, misalignment of some sort that is causing that to be administered, no?
Yeah, and I just gotta say, I just had a little giggle yesterday, and it was like, it's just funny how the traditional alien, at least for me, at first it was always the little green alien, and then it became the little gray alien, and it's just funny how it's like the most scary looking alien that was introduced into our psyche kind of thing. Like we weren't introduced to like the cat alien and the dog alien and the rat alien. It was like the little gray alien that's mutilated all of its sexual parts is the alien that is the mass, the representation of what an ET is.
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, like Andrew talks about the gray skin suit just being a skin suit, right? Optimized for space travel.
Yeah, it's like very demented.
Oh, Tanya, instant manifestation. I get it. No, I didn't see it.
Yes, I think I'm gonna change into a reindeer.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Can I do it? All right.
fun avatars. Yeah, I mean, traveling in Egypt, you have all of the different gods and goddesses, right? Who are different types of animals, right? Horus is the hawk, Sekhmet is the lion being, right? And there's the ibis, right? And there's I don't know, a lot of different schools of thought, right? When you talk to the people there, like about what they what they've learned, right? Like talking to our tour guide, she's like, well, there's many different opinions and we respect all opinions, but this is what we learned, right? So these beings were manifesting certain qualities, but I don't know, maybe they're beings from other planetary systems that hold that shape, right? Think about the avian people, like the blue avians, right? Maybe Horus was, one of the avian people.
And I love this because it's like the language of ET races, and how beautiful the spectrum is of their own evolution. But then you got the grays. It's like
can't focus, Sean. I can only look at your mouth. Change the eye.
Who let the dogs out?
Who
Sorry.
let the dogs out?
Okay, say again what you said. I couldn't focus.
Oh, just language. Just made me giggle. Like the levels of self-deception or deception, where it's like all these colorful ET races of enormous spectrums, and we are introduced to the race that has completely lost genitals. It's completely fucked. As it's fine, it can do what it wants, but it's like that's the representation that was like, I thought of, and that's why it scared us. I don't know, it scared me when I was a kid. When you ever like run through the fields and you had that thought of those scary gray green aliens?
Yeah, it was the way for them to detach ourselves, that be accepted to those different races, because we were afraid. We were thinking that they're going to come into eat us.
That's like, putting the most scariest one on a plate. Like it's like a person hasn't eaten seafood before and they give them something that's still alive and wiggling.
Let me ask you a question in here right now. So I'm thinking about this. So what would be the difference if we're waking up in the morning and we look at ourselves in the mirror and we're seeing ourselves different residual images. Like one day we'll look like our brother or our mother or our father or an aunt or an uncle. Wouldn't that be the same, in a similar way, a concept of shape shifting? I mean, it could be that we are actually bringing into focus our ability of shape shifting naturally as we're looking at ourselves in the mirror and we're seeing these different residual images. It's probably our DNA is activating in a very subtle way, showing us and telling us, hey, you are shapeshifters. Because remember that shifting was taken away from us back during the Mahabharata war. That was according to AB, that was the purpose there, to whether shapeshifting will remain or not. But in a subtle way, it's still with us, right? Think about that.
Absolutely. I would just add to this, Lana. I'd say I'd love to be choosing it, not just waking up like, whoa, oh no. Able to somewhat influence that.
Yeah.
Well, Lana, I'd like to ask a question about that. Now that you said, according to what they have proved, that we're using just the 3% of potential in our brain. And I was thinking, because we have so big programmed a limitation, maybe we can be able to do all that stuff, but we forgot about how to do it because we have been programming some limitation that, for example, when everybody was talking about so much information that we got overwhelmed about all the information, overwhelming. And then myself said, which one is the one that I can use right now? Because so much information that sometimes it's a challenge even to choose which one is important in this moment. And then I was remember that our brain had a massive capacity to do so much stuff that we don't have an idea what we can do. Maybe we had a faculty to do those things that Lona, you saying about it, but we forgot about how to do it. And this was my
Well, I was
getting.
thinking the other day that how our skin suit technology is the most powerful technology that could ever be invented, right? Because it can process so many different things and very quickly with all the new technology and the chat bots and all kinds of stuff that they're introducing to us. But our body is actually the best technology you could ever find. But something else I was thinking about as you were talking there, Harmenia, is that, gosh, I remember, and then I forgot about what I was going to say. Oh, I was going to say about we can use only 3% of our DNA, but the rest of it is they're labeling it junk DNA. Now, how can we find a way for us to actually bring our junk DNA back into view, into focus, that it's active all the time for us?
It's like updated, like for example, the phone, every certain time they had a new update coming in, and you can, but we have, like Martina said, the speed of information is so fast that our brain cannot be adjusted to be able to be the receptive of all that information, because we have so much block in it, right? And that's what that would be the way.
We're proud. We're right now. Many people are trying to get all the stuff that's been stored in our body cleansed and bring our body back into better form. So once the body is back into better form, it will be much easier for us to process the other information that is still there, and then we can probably start opening up back to maybe 4% of our DNA, 5%, take back what is junk and make it into a reality for us again, because it's there. It hasn't gone anywhere.
Well, I mean, I think this really talks about the body's pattern recognition, right? It's like the cell, your original cells that all of your cells are blueprinted on are holding a certain residual image of what that cell is supposed to be, right? And so, within a year, your whole body will fully regenerate, right? Each organ, each, your skin cells, your hair cells, your eyes, your whole body is regenerating, right? So when the cell has a residual image, it's going to regenerate based on that residual image, right? And when there's trauma held in the original cell, right? So the process of releasing that old residual image, right? We're talking about residual image for our faces and our bodies, the way they shapeshift, but this goes for the DNA too, right? Think about like Andrew's advanced heart meditation, right? And the way that cleans the pericardium, the way that cleans the blood and looks at each blood cell and the way that it's being generated within the bone marrow, within the spleen, right? So the DNA, you can do the same thing with your DNA. You can go into that original DNA cell and clean it and clear it on a regular basis, right? That speaks to daily practice. That speaks to what you know now versus what you knew last week versus what you knew last month, last year, about yourself and about the nature of energy and the way it's working in a quantum form. There in this book, the Sophia Code that I read recently, there's different activations from different ascended masters, and one of the activations that the second activation in the book, Isis is first and then Hathor, which is interesting that I have the temple of Dendera, the Hathor temple right here in my background, so since I'm talking about this today. But in the Hathor activation, you go into your original stem cell and look at the nucleotides, the ladder of the DNA, right? The A, T, G, and C, as you walk up the ladder of the DNA, and you look at the electrons, right, on each of those nucleotides, each of those like parts of the ladder, and clear the electrons energetically, right? And so, when you're clearing that original cell on a quantum level, then you're changing the way the cell starts to replicate, right? And that ripples through your body, right? On levels that we don't, can't even really understand, but science can show us the way that the liver cells regenerate and the way that the brain cells regenerate, right? That's proven. So what is the blueprint that those cells are regenerating from? You have the capability to change it, right?
Process of elimination. Self-healing, self-mastery, sovereignty.
I don't need that old ancestral, those old ancestral thought patterns that are holding my DNA solid in place, right?
I
So-
love thinking of that the residual image and the holographic projection on a cellular level, on a small level, very small level. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So by letting go, everything is just going to come through.
We touched on a little bit ago, but kind of Lana's question. I think if you see a changing residual image, it kind of shows your potential a little bit, because like if we see the same residual image over and over and over again, we're kind of locked into that perspective. But if we can see different residual images, we kind of can see different potentials and have that shape-shifting capability, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's an indication that something is moving. Something is not, there's not necessarily stagnancy in this whole thing. Something is moving quite quickly. And then it's just a matter of, how can we work with that, that it doesn't get scary for people when you wake up next to your partner every day and you look different.
Yeah, and if we really, really stretch that, if we translocate it into an entire different body or an entire different race, that's really just reconfiguring our own residual image. And we can say, I'm still Sean Robert Bibby. I'm just in this fish body with 4 legs and a tail. It's me. I'm Sean. I just have a different residual image today. And knowing that it's our actual us who switched our residual image.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bigger scale, obviously.
I think too, everything's always in motion, right? When you think about the cellular electrons, they're always like spinning with the electromagnetic charge, right?
John, you made me think about something that I was told once, that past life, that I was a fish, but I was a fish that I was in the process of flying in a spaceship, like a little war. I was fighting a war or something like that. But the funny part was that I had dreadlocks. And I that was so cool. I like that image.
I was a badass fish.
Right.
Thick threads.
All the infinite possibilities, guys.
So can you imagine the different kinds of residual images that are stored in our DNA memories?
Amazing.
Absolutely. And then and knowing the different languages so we can express them. Because if we can't express it in this limited perception that we have. Like we just can't keep channeling English, and we just can't keep channeling Roman numeral time and express these memories, because these memories are outside of that limited point of view. So we got to keep expanding to be able to accomplish it.
Have to find ways, and also
like upper skills.
Be willing to lose people that do not speak that kind of language.
Mm-hmm. And I'm go Lana.
No, I was gonna say I had the dream last night. And I normally don't have dreams with reptiles or anything like that. But I dreamt that I was in this house, and then I look out the door, and I think I was going out. I was trying to go outside, and I saw this big snake, right, between 6 to 10 feet, maybe. I can't really tell how long it was, and it was like right crawling around outside there. And the door happened to have like a window pane, and I was looking out and I saw it there, and I was like, oh shit, I'm not going out there. this thing is too big. So I call whoever was around me, and I told them about it, and I'm saying, can you guys go out and see if you can get this snake away from the doorway there, or to show them, the snake and all that. And then, okay, so we got out from another direction of this house, and we came around the other side. to where the snake was. And as I was looking at the snake, I had a better view of it. And all of a sudden, the snake kind of got up a little bit, you know, the way like a lizard would get up, you know, and the head would be sticking up in the air and stuff like that. And then I saw that it had like arms, like Tyrannosaurus Rex have these short arms. The snake actually had arms like this. And I'm like, holy crap, I never saw a snake like that before. This is like really new. So we're talking about the residual images and stuff like that, and shape-shifting, and I'm thinking about there's this snake that has arms, you know. It wasn't, and then I woke up and I'm thinking, is this a form of a not a dinosaur, a dragon or something like that? But the head was still a snake and everything. The body was a snake. It's just that it had arms coming out of it now, you know, little tiny arms. And then I saw another snake, like smaller size, shorter in length, came up next to it, and it was more of a greenish color. But the original snake was normal brownish with black and stuff on it, you know. And then another one came that was a greenish tone in color. But that was all that was about the dream. I didn't remember anything else continuing after that. But that was kind of funny to see these little arms coming out like Tyrannosaurus Rex arms.
Sounds like a good bonding moment.
Huh?
What?
A lot of transformation.
Yeah.
And friendship.
Now I was thinking, is that another form of dragons that we never saw before, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Could be.
Tanya, what do you think? You see a lot of stuff, don't you?
I mean, I think that it was a message for you in Dreamtime, for sure. But you know, working with transformation, like Martina was saying, the snake is usually about transformation, right? Like shedding the old skin and opening up to the new, but also, you know, allowing for your intuition and your energies to really come forward, right?
Okay.
It's like, think about, you know, a snake coming out of a hole, right? You're starting to show yourself like who you are.
Grow arms, right?
For that.
Grow little arms coming out of me, like an octopus.
Might not be able to quite reach your checkbook, but that's
yeah. That was lit.
I'm getting this
there.
embracing what Tanya just said, you know. It's like that the arms is like embrace the transformation, you know. Doesn't matter how long the arms are, you know, just that, or allow yourself to be embraced by the transformation. That is something very physical, because, you know, we often look at transformation, it's all like, you know, very much a spiritual thing, but no, it's a very physical thing. And the arms sort of represent the physicality of that transformation.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think like the little arms on the snake really trap your concentration. Because usually snakes have, you know, they got that head too with that little tongue. They do that thing. But when that snake has little arms, the only thing in my brain is me looking at his little arms.
Well, that was my focus as well. I stopped looking at what the snake actually looked like, and all I could remember recognizing was his arms. So like, where did that come from? I never saw snakes before with arms, or, you know, documented anywhere. So you're right, John. I was focusing on the arms now. Forget about what it looked like.
Made it real. Made it real. Now, people, let's look at something here. I was just thinking, because we talked about freedom, right? We talked about overwhelm. We talked about pattern recognition. We talked about everything is bloody changing, uncertainty, la, la, la. What is the word? Which word do you want to go in a bit more and look at? Do we, what is the most important word that, or energy, that you would like to explore in order to help us to get through those changes?
For me, it would be discerning. because like I mentioned before, there's so much information. Which one is the real one that I need to work accepting as myself as part of my truth? Because you know, everybody.
Would it be okay? Would it be okay just to shorten the word if I use trust?
Yes,
Trust the
can
same.
be too. Mm-hmm.
Is it the same for you?
Discerning
Trusting
trust.
yourself?
Yes, it's almost like the same root coming, you know, the same essence. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have one is freedom, one is trust. Which other words would you like to explore in a bit more detail in the next half an hour? Any word that's been on your mind that you would like
Memory?
to memory? Any others?
Can't hear you, Mary.
Balance?
You know, for me, grounding is everything.
Grounding. Yeah. So we got trust. Any more? Trust, freedom, memory, balance, and grounding. 5. We got those 5. Which one would you like to choose for just the exploration now?
Well, I think go with trust, since Hermania did
Trust?
that one first.
You happy? Okay, it's the shortest one as well. So we can just play with that, and it might actually link up nicely with the other ones anyway. Okay, so all we're going to do is we're just going to look at trust, and I'm going to ask you the question over and over again. So what is important to you in the context of trust? And you just throw me some values here. Just throw me whatever comes up. What is important to you in the context of trust?
Well, for me, it would be trust in my own knowing.
Knowingness?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Just shout it out, guys.
Listening.
Listening.
First thing that came to me was honesty.
Honesty. What is important to you in the context of trust? I would say for me it's clarity. Clarity. And there might be more, so just throw it out.
Allow.
Allow.
Yeah.
Balance. I want to throw in Mary's balance here. And to be honest, I'm going to throw in grounding as well. And the memory, right?
Focus.
Authenticity.
Authenticity and focus, yeah. Anything else?
The phrase "I'm walking on sunshine" keep popping in my mind, so I don't know if it has anything to do with trust. Walking on sunshine.
Is that happiness or what do we call this?
Joy.
That's the word that
Uncertainty.
came to my mind.
What was that? The Hamida,
Oh.
you had joy?
I said certainty.
Certainty.
Because I feel certain about what my trusting in the moment, or what my knowing.
Like joy and movement.
Movement. Throw in your sunshine as well. Yeah? Sunshine. Okay, well, we got quite a few. So let's just look at this. So we've got knowingness, listening in the context of trust. Yeah. Knowingness, listening, honesty, clarity, allowance, balance, grounding, memory, authenticity, focus, joy, certainty, movement, and sunshine. Walking on sunshine.
Wow.
Now, consider yourself in a situation where you have total trust. If this is in yourself or into others, this is entirely up to you now. Yeah, you have knowingness, you have listening, you have honesty, you have clarity, allowance, balance, grounding, memory, authenticity, focus, certainty, movement, sunshine. What would have to happen for you to get out of that situation?
An earthquake.
Over trusting.
That would throw you out of balance right away.
So imbalance, yeah.
It's like shaking movement.
What would have to happen for you to not trust?
Being deceived.
Deceit, yeah.
Yeah, being deceived.
So you have knowingness, listening, honesty, clarity, allowance, balance, all of this, imbalance and deceit. Now, what would have to happen for you to come back and trust yourself? Having all of that, you still got imbalance and deceit. What would have to happen? What would trump all of that for you to come back in and say, yes?
Remember.
Memory, yeah.
Yeah, remember. Remember who I am.
Okay.
That's good, Harmonia. I like that.
I'm gonna call it self-remembering, yeah? Or I'm gonna call it, yeah, self-remembering.
It sort of ties in with centering yourself for me as well.
Can't hear you, Mary.
Oh gosh.
Centering, very, very calmly, we hear you. So centering, yeah.
That ties in with the self-remembering. It's kind of, I think, you know, it's for me, that sort of also ties in with centering myself. Yeah.
Is that, Tanya, is that your grounding?
Yeah, I mean, grounding, discernment, like knowingness, the balance, you know, for me, right, when I'm holding that trust for myself, that's not shakeable.
Okay. Cool. Now we've got trust. Let's, what's that word? When you use a word and then you, what do you call this? Trust. And then you find words that define that word. There's a word for that. I don't know what it's called.
That you mean the same thing?
No, but defining it or explaining it.
It's not an anagram, is it?
Yeah, something similar to that, I think. But don't worry about it. So T. What have we had? If I look at everything that you've given, we don't have anything with a T. We have
Timing?
Truth,
yeah. That's right, truth, yeah. I've got something for the S, which would be self-remembering, yeah.
And what about time?
Time,
Yeah, for T.
yeah.
Because we're playing in time, different experience, different time.
Let's put that in. What are we going to use for the R? Trust for the R. We haven't got any R's either.
well, you could use remembrance for the R also.
Yeah.
I've put it as self-remembrance, so we can change that if we got something for the S. Do we have something for the S?
Remember. Rebirth. Rebirth.
Rebirth? Is that
Yeah.
similar?
How about responsibility for yourself? Being
Okay.
responsible?
Yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah.
Then
And then we have a U left.
Understanding.
Understanding.
It's funny because I was remember Lana when Lana said I was to rescue myself. I have to rescue myself. I was waiting for somebody to come in to rescue me. I have to remember I have to rescue myself.
When we look at trust from that perspective, so let's think of something, you know, where you are in a situation and you need to use your trust, or, you know, whatever you define as trust for yourself. You would have truth. Comes with truth, responsibility, standing. That could be the list. Self-remembrance.
Yeah.
And then we've got the time.
And for me, it kind to unique, because sometimes we're looking for somebody else to approve us, or giving us the certainty that what we're doing or what we're practicing or what we say is the correct one. And for myself, I forgot sometimes that every one of us is unique. Receive information in unique way, growth in unique ways, because it's going to depend on our own experience, right? Unique.
Understanding unique. I just put uniqueness, yeah. Uniqueness.
And unity,
and
yeah,
unity.
I was just thinking it. Jen wrote it, I was thinking it.
Yeah, that's a good one, because I was thinking unity too.
I was thinking unity as well.
Wow, that's amazing.
I'm looking at I'm looking at the energy today in the galactic calendar, and it's a day 1 day, a magnetic hand. And I was just looking at the mantra for today, and it starts, I unify in order to know. Attracting healing, I seal the store of accomplishment with the magnetic tone of purpose. I'm guided by my own power double.
Wow. Everything is there.
So, yeah, I unify in order to know.
Yeah.
Right. That's the
unity
energy of the day.
Good. Yeah.
Inhaling, it's like inhaling inwards, you know, like inhaling. You bring everything back into unity. Draw in your breath.
And what can we accomplish when we trust in ourselves, when we trust in our intuition, when we trust that we can remember who we are.
We can build big things.
Big things.
We bring the Mandela effect back into focus here.
Yeah.
The remembering, the great remembering.
Yes.
Oh, transformation.
Definitely.
Got a T. Transmutation, transformation, transfiguration, all of that. Yeah. Cool.
There was 2 of them there that really got me thinking about, like, I couldn't say it because it didn't fit in to like one word. But I was really thinking like bank accounts. It's like a trust is just like that energy is not just going to be taken away when you're depending on using it. And it's like physical energy or money energy. It's just like the sudden shit, like being able to trust that there's not just going to be a sudden shift in an energy deposit that you're believing that's going to be there. Like it could be a partner, could be money in the bank, could be like physical energy. And then all of a sudden you go to use it and it's like, well, I was trusting it was going to be there and it's gone.
Well, you know, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just, you know, I once came across that that way of looking at trust, which completely changed everything for me. And before I say this, I'm just going to add thrival, which Mary suggested. We can't hear her. So thrival, which is a good one as well. So, because I used to, whenever I wrote something, I always said, trust, you will be, trust you're well, trust you're receiving that in good order or some shit like that. You know, there was always that trust. And that was already using it in a different way because I wasn't really trusting them that they would receive it, but I was more trusting myself that I was sending it in a way that was in a certain fashion that they would be able to appreciate it. So it's like the way I've looked when it comes to relationships and trust is always like, I trust, that's a different nuance, that I will always know, or I will never be surprised by somebody else's actions. I trust myself to know enough or to be able to either be an allowance if it does catch me by, you know, what's the word?
Surprise?
Yeah, by surprise, or I will be able to know it already in advance, how they act, because of the pattern recognition that we have. So it's another little way of looking at trusting, because the other trust is like trusting in other people that they will be doing something. It's fucking blind faith. We can't do that. It gives our own power away. So that's what I love when we say truth, responsibility is in there, because there is responsibility in our trust. We can't blindly believe that that's just not who we are anymore.
I like this because I'm thinking of it like stored energy versus kinetic energy, or like stored energy versus energy and movement. And now it's like you have that trust that you can use that stored energy, but it's and what it's going to happen with it. But then it's someone you trusted that you knew what they were going to do with it, and then they take it and they use it in a way that you don't think that you're going to do that. That's a break in trust. So like a rapid shift in energy potential that you didn't really see was going to happen. It was outside of your truth understanding.
Well, you see, yeah, and let's just add to this, because this is where understanding becomes the limitation. We have to work with awareness. Awareness includes everything and judges nothing. This is, you know, we can't even say, oh, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, because now you can say, you know, you're in a bad relationship and you knew something was going to, the ship was going to hit the fan. So you knew it was going to happen. It's not like you're just, oh no, I didn't think that was ever going to happen, and you're playing the pity card. But you know, so yeah.
Yeah, once we start playing in the sandbox of awareness, the responsibility gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And, you know, as we're going into the multidimensional sandbox, we can't even, you know, claim ignorance or not, or surprise even.
Yeah.
And then your trust doesn't get broken.
Yeah. I think that's why I think that's Andre always mentioned with more knowledge, the more responsibility that we have.
Yeah.
The more knowing, the more responsibility. You know, Martina, when you mentioned transfiguration, I was remember one of the episodes from Star Wars. There was one episode that was about transfiguration. It was this civilization that it was lost, and then they rescue a couple of them in the ship. And then the guy, when they did the assessment to see what was wrong with the person that couldn't wake up, and when he woke up, he was able to, you know, what I presented to us about Jesus, that he was transfiguration on the third day or whatever they said. That became the physical body, became the light body. And he was able to do that because he was remembering what he was, that they had. Well, the control system of that planet specific didn't want him to show to the population that they had that inside. It's very interesting that I will just remember that episode when you said transfiguration.
So that's the example of like trusting that we're more than we've heard, read, or study. We trust in that, so it allows that potential to be, and we don't even know what it is.
Yes.
But we know that it's not going to, you know, bite our own ass.
Yes. Yes.
But this is why transfiguration is such a cool word, because it's a total out creation. It's not just a transformation. As we often say, it's not a rebirth, it's a completely new birth. Form that we've never considered as possibly to be in.
Yeah. It's like let it coming out from the box what was there already.
Yeah.
You know, there's
Absolutely.
something too to taking people at their word, right? Where when someone says they're going to do something or says they feel a certain way, right? One of the things that that I've transformed within myself is not, even though, you know, maybe the person is not really being honest with what they're saying, but not taking responsibility of reading into something that they're not saying. Right. So I like think of the dynamics with family, right? Oh, yes, I don't mind doing that. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. You go, you know, okay, I'm going to take you at your word, and I'm not going to take responsibility for the emotions behind like what is being said that's not being directly communicated to me. You know, even if I can read the energy, right? Is it my
Mm.
responsibility
That's like
to
pure dual track
read your
thinking.
mind? And you know, no, I don't think so. I don't think it is. Right. Will I, you know, so there's this shifting, right, that has allowed me to be more, you know, independent in my own energy field and not take on those energies of people who aren't being true, right? Even if they're saying something, right, I'm going to just take them at their word. Okay, I hear
Mm.
what you're saying. I'm going to hold you to that responsibility, but I'm not going to be responsible if you're not, you know, you're not saying what you're really saying.
Beautiful point, beautiful point. And of course, the responsibility lies with you to not fall for it, to have an awareness, what's really going on. And as you say, Tanya, you know, absolutely, no, you don't have to take responsibility for this person to do whatever they say they're doing. The only responsibility lies with you to not be dependent on the action that you already know is not going to take.
Exactly.
And the worst is, you know, often, you know, when that happens with people that we actually sort of entangled with because we like them, it's not so easy because we see their potential, but, you know, we also trust that they're not choosing it. And then it becomes difficult, right? To just say, okay, yeah, I know you're going to do that. No.
This is where the whelms come in. because if you understand what they're not saying and what they're saying at the same time, and you acknowledge both of them at the same time, so much the argumentative personality comes out that just wants like, and then it's like, okay, now I've engaged in the argument here.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, which is sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, depending on what type of relationship it is.
Sean, we
yeah.
have to admit that in our past reality and into the present moment of now, we have became masters of deception. And we use this deception in order to protect ourselves and others from getting hurt, and not presenting the actual truth. You know, like if somebody asks you to do something for them, or they ask you, how do I look today? You don't want to hurt their feelings. If you perceive that the makeup they're wearing today looks horrible on them, you can say, oh, you look very pretty, or whatever. We are deceiving them on the basis of, you know, not to create hurt in their feelings. But we've mastered that. And you know what? We should pat ourselves on our shoulders for being masters of deception, but then also recognizing the fact that we recognize it. We know what deception is because we have mastered it in this reality.
That's interesting, because like essentially the master of deception is just maintaining a static reality, maintaining a status quo, because the truth is that the person can just know what you're going to react to, or like know what you're going to do. But if you react differently, then upsets their trust, they get angry. So it's really, the deception is just to stay the same constantly and not do anything different.
Yeah.
Well, there is a bias behind that. There is like a projection and an expectation of the other. How would the other person, perceive if I come up with my truth? So that's something. And yes, I hear what you're saying, Lana. And there's obviously the way I get around this. I often ask myself the question: what creates more for both of us if I say the truth and if I don't? Or the truth, my truth, yeah, depending on who you're talking to. What creates more? Because sometimes you just know it's not going to create anything other than tears or that. And sometimes it actually creates, oh, yeah, no, you're right. Maybe I can look at that from this perspective. Now, I think with the sacral chakra coming into the throat, those choices are being made sort of for us at times, because the body just fucking says whatever it wants to say, and they're like, oops, I didn't want that to come out. And it's like, oh, the truth just overpowered you. You just say, and sometimes this is the way it has to be done.
I had this
have to get beyond the level of allowance, right?
this pure bane visualization in my mind of a sacral, just that mask, and you just, hi, I'm Bane. You have the sacral right in front of the face like a mask.
All the creativity from the sacral with the throat, the empowered throat, fuck it, yeah, have it.
Yeah, so everybody, if you have to wear a mask again for whatever reason, just imagine like a big sacral or sacrum sitting on your face.
Yeah, you got to think, oh, mask on, mask off, mask on, mask off. But then you keep the mask on, it comes out, and where does it go? You're going to inhale it back, and you're going to hurt yourself. So you got to be very careful. Use your discernment on that. What creates more for both people involved?
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is like
sometimes
dual
people
track, tri-track
just
thinking.
can't hear it.
I hear it, yeah. But that gets less and less. Look, if we work with clients, then you come in with a completely different mindset already, because you have your professional awareness hat on and all the masks on, and immediately. Yeah, it's often, in a setting where you're actually opening up. This is the setting where I sometimes get still, it's a setting and you have this amazing conversation, everything's cool, and you're just dishing it out and up, and you think, oh, let's connect and let's share. Or all of a sudden you didn't recognize that the other person changed and the different versions come out, and all of a sudden that version's like, oh, all right, that's that level of awareness we need to think of, because within a conversation, there is not just one person you're talking to. One moment you speak to that chart, all of a sudden they bring out the wounded chart, the sad chart, and it's like, whoa, okay.
Or their
It's
eyes
time for you
just
to
roll
start
back in their
talking to
head
each
and
other.
glaze over.
Say again? Oh,
Or
the
their
glazing
eyes-
over. Yeah.
Yeah, their eyes just roll back in their head and glaze over. Like,
Yeah.
too much information.
Or the wall, the hand comes up.
One of the things I coming back to pattern recognition, the topic for today that we're talking about pattern recognition is I do recognize, or I can safely say we all begin to recognize the master of deception in our reality, right? We've come so far that now we can recognize the masters of deception. The system of domination and control is perfect for that, right? They're masters of deceiving us.
Yes,
And it's
especially
something,
those.
and then now where we're at, we are recognizing this.
I really
that
think
is
of like,
why-
sorry, Lana.
No, 1 second. So that is why we are getting to the point where we are becoming self-masters now. We're mastering the reality because we're saying, no, we're not going to consent to this deception anymore. We've been deceived for way, way, way too long. It's been millions of years that we have been deceived. And I don't consent to it. I don't know how about you, but I'm at the point where like enough is enough. I'm recognizing this is the pattern recognition that I'm getting.
Especially with like the energy transformation and transfiguration systems. It's like we keep losing each transformation that we have to pay for. And it's like our body can turn fat into carbohydrates. It can turn carbohydrates into protein. They can do all these things, and there doesn't have to be a little cut or a little shimmin off the top every single time these transformations happen. It's bullshit.
How do we lose transformation, Sean?
Like how do we lose in the exchange?
Is it, yeah, how do we lose transformation? I didn't get that part.
Like I just mean like for the energy transformation systems, it converts hydroelectric energy, like hydro energy into electric energy, turns it into 110 energy. You constantly have one energy being transformed into another energy, and then the price gets hiked up for whatever reason, where there should be infinite energy. It's just this mind fuck. And our body can also transmute any energy into any energy through its infinite bodily systems. And that's just another like exterior thing versus interior thing that's going on too.
And
Like
that's where it
pattern
comes back.
recognition.
And that's where it comes back to we're recognizing the pattern. And we're talking about it now. We're speaking about it. We're trying to transform that and saying no more. In 30 years ago, we didn't recognize that, did we? That we were being deceived, and that they're charging us for energy where energy is actually, everywhere.
And like the
Where
subtler
there's light,
deception.
there's energy. Yeah.
Where they knew that we would catch on to it, but then they subtly changed the reaction to the deception. And they try to like manipulate you with the reaction to it. So it's like this endless chain of bullshit that no more. I'm just going to read the truthful, honest script. Maybe script's not the right word, but I'll just read. I'm not going to read between all these crib note bullshit. Yeah. I also really want a professional awareness hat. I would love to have him, like, just rip it out sometimes. Just going to put on my professional awareness hat for a moment.
Yeah,
You can break through the hardest hard ass with a hat like that.
absolutely. And you don't even have to open your mouth. Because there's literally nothing they can fight against anyway, because you're just pure awareness, right?
That's the outshining thing. Like, having so much energy that it doesn't matter if they're a big suck, because that they're never going to make a dent in it, and then they're just going to quit trying because
we've come now into the pattern recognition of the revocation, that the revocation is actually doing something for us, right? We didn't have the understanding of revocations 10 years ago, but now we do. And we can see that it's actually something that is valid, that is working to make a change. And we're not going to follow into the, the deception anymore. But that is the pattern recognition, that we can see that when you're doing the revocation and things like that, we're recognizing that it actually does work. Brings us back to the diamond that is not going to be worn this May, right, Tanya? From that revocation, we all, came together, and that you so beautifully wrote, and we did.
Not,
and it's
not used in the
show.
coronation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's beginning to show in the news. It's in regular news now. Talked about it.
No shit. Last night, without trying to fall into subtle expectation, I was looking at the moon and I was like, am I going to be sucked up into a golden tube right now? Because it was just such a beautiful night. And it's like that point where, I don't know about you guys, but this is one of the strong defining lines for me. That I was like, whoa, things are kicking up a notch. Because I went from the point where, hey, the earth might be a sentient creature, to the earth is alive.
Yeah.
I saw that metaphorical line in the sand of evolution where I was like, you're like, you know what? The planet might be alive. And then now it's like, there's no doubt. It's like, now when I speak, it's like the planet is alive. There's not maybe in the equation. And that's like, what the revocations do. All of a sudden you're like, fuck, I'm actually believing this instead of just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you know
that's your pattern recognition right there. You recognize that from I think it's alive to I am quite sure it's alive.
And
I'm definitely sure it's alive.
and back to the beginnings too. You'll see, Mary, and you know, like when you first found Andrew's material, like there's this concept like, is this the most amazing thing I've ever heard in the world, or is this just bullshit? Is this just the most amazing thing I've ever? Even though there's also that like when I heard it, like I believed it very strongly right away in a core aspect of myself, but the doubts kept pushing back in. Like, is this just the most theatrical ruse I've ever seen in my whole life? And then one day it just switches over and you cross that line and it's like, wow, this is real now instead of just a thought form.
It's, you know, when as I'm editing the book, you know, I don't know how many times, you know, I've changed this can create blah, blah, blah to this creates blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean?
Right?
What you're saying. But I want to go back to that pattern, that huge pattern recognition, Alana. You know, you putting out that thing, I didn't even look at it, you know, until I got it. And then this is such a huge pattern recognition with that Kohinoor, what's going on with this coming into the public. And, you know, it's all linking back, you know, to obviously Queenie dying and the contracts and all of that. And of course, the other thing is, you know, that huge thing of we're talking about left brain, right brain, yin, yang, all of that, West and the East coming together now as well. Because we need to bring it all together. That's the next level of looking at this huge pattern coming in, West and East, Northern, Southern hemisphere. You know, it's all coming together. It's all, but the thing is, it's all getting bigger. It's all getting more expansive. And this is why it's nice to stay in that expanded space at times, so that we can really recognize those big patterns. And then, because also, you know, I don't know. I mean, lots of us here, if you get asked the question, I always look at this. What is more fun for you, to work with one person, get the energy of that, and then get the energy of working with 5 people at the same time and see how the energy changes? And then what if you work with 50, 500, 5,000, 500,000? You know, when does it get more fun for you? Right? And that shows you how expanded you allow yourselves to be. And even if you say, okay, 5,000 is enough now, that doesn't mean that maybe next week you got to be at 500,000. And there's nothing wrong if you just want to work with 1 or 5. But that you can, you know, it's really that looking at what is fun. And when you get into that expanded space of beingness and you are no longer really fighting it and you are aligned with it, then you want to work with millions of people and species and, you know,
all the sentient fuckers.
And that comes with responsibility and boundaries.
That's one of the other pattern recognition I recognize, is that if you work alone or you work with one person, it's not going to give you the answer to the whole. But when you work with several people, each person it's like the puzzle, right? Each one of us has a piece of it only. And so when we come together as a big group now, a collective, then we get the answer to fit the whole puzzle. And then the whole picture of the puzzle brightens up and you can see the whole picture again. And because not one of us has the answer, but all of us has the answer. And we bring our pieces in and we put it into the whole, and we get the answer and the bigger picture. And that's the pattern recognition I'm beginning to see.
Yeah.
And I see it here in our own Zoom room, that we all come together and we bring a piece every week into it. Not just one person doing all the talking or 2 people, right? It's all of us bringing in a little piece of it all the time. And we make it happen.
Absolutely. And it goes,
And That's why it's successful. It stays, right? Because we're bringing the balance in every week.
Absolutely. And you know what? The other thing that comes to mind here is that I have a lot of fun on my own. Yeah, I have so much fun on my own doing stuff. And then there was Train said something in the last show. He said, when he was reading my thingy, I have to go out to create new experiences so that I can teach them. And that was such a profound remark. I'm thinking, because I'm always like, oh, I can do everything at home, right? I don't really have to go anywhere. And then, but, there is obviously through the interaction, just like Lana said, with other people, with other countries, and whilst you can do a lot in your head whilst you're in the same place, there is, like Tanya will definitely be able to, confirm that, having been to bloody Egypt, right? I mean, it is a different thing than sitting at home.
A different thing.
Yeah.
Could you have seen camels at home?
On TV,
Yeah,
at the zoo.
yeah.
This is where the arms, the hands of the snake that Lana talked about. Yes, we can do a lot in our imagination, in our hands, from a soul level perspective, but we need to bring the arms out and get out there into the world and embrace the physicality, right? Embrace to be with other people, no matter how obnoxious they are, and not just obviously humans.
Well,
Those
thank you.
snakes are beginning to grow arms. They're reaching out to us.
That's the
What?
moment.
They
On
didn't
that
have arms
note,
before.
I hope you guys not going to have any nightmares with snakes with hands and heads.
We invite them on in.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
Tanya kindly is prepared to do the next week and talk to us about her trip.
Oh, cool. I'm looking forward to that.
Would you like me to set up the Zoom, or do you want to set up the Zoom for that, Martina?
You know what? Do it in your thingy, then you can put it on your
Okay.
own YouTube. Then you got it there.
Sure.
Yeah. If you want to. If you don't want
Yeah,
that,
no worries. I can
Yeah.
do that.
you got it there.
Hey,
And
Tanya, before you go,
What happened that the people that doesn't know that Tanya coming next week, they were looking for the link that they go every week, then we'll be able to, or maybe you're going to send some messages or something.
Yeah, I'll post it on Earth Nouveau.
But Martina, you can still host it, and Tanya can record. So she'll have it, and you'll have it. You'll both have it.
okay. Cool.
Because if you put it on yours, then it reaches a bigger audience because it's more recognized when.
Well, we do it on both. That's actually a good
Yeah.
idea. We do co-host, and then we have it on both, so we
Yeah.
get it on both, and we're not missing out either on Earth Nouveau. I just thought
Yeah.
more would be nice.
That's better.
Yeah. Let's have it on all. I mean, our reach is still a bit limited, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
The people who need to find us, so.
Absolutely.
yeah,
Sean,
I have a good time.
Sean, you were saying something?
Oh, I was just gonna ask Tanya what that book was
Oh,
that she was reading.
The Sophia Code. I'll
Thank
post it in the
in
the
Hub.
link for the replay. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. That was amazing, as always.
Yeah,
Well
that was
done.
a good show.
Good stuff. I look forward to next week. See you then. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.